Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. President Muhammadu Buhari has written to the National Assembly seeking confirmation of the newly appointed service chiefs. The president appointed Chief of Defence Staff Major General Lucky Irabo, appointed Rear Admiral Awal Zubairu Gambo as new Chief of Naval Staff, Major General Ibrahim Attahiru as new Chief of Army Staff, as well as Vice Marshal Isiaka Amao as Chief of Air Staff. In a statement signed by his senior special assistant on National Assembly, Senator Babajide Omoworare, President Buhari was quoted as saying in the letter to the Senate President dated January the 27th, 2021, that the request was in furtherance of Section 18, subsection 1 of the Armed Forces Act of the Federation of Nigeria. Therefore, it is not in contravention to the laws, as many fear that the president, in some quarters, that the president bypassed the National Assembly in the process of appointing the service chiefs. Now, with National Assembly on recess at the moment, President Muhammadu Buhari is hoping that the appointment of the security chiefs would make one of the first items on the agenda of the lawmakers come from February the 9th, the resumption date. And joining us now is a public affairs analyst and a lawyer, Barrister Fred Ezeako. Good to have you join us, Mr. Ezeako. I beg your pardon.
Thank you. Glad to be with you. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the program again. Let me start by asking you, there was so much pressure on the president in the past to change these service chiefs. And then all of a sudden, with little hue or cry, he decided to change them. What does that suggest to you?
Well, what it means is it is better late than never. The pressure mounted on Mr. President to rejig the security architecture of the country was not an unnecessary pressure. It was the right pressure, judging by the challenges of insecurity faced by Nigerians all across the country, from east, west, north, and south. So, and going by the fact that those who are at the helm of affairs, who had been, or who were at the helm of affairs of the security apparatus, have really, so to speak, put in their very best, and the law of diminishing return has set in. The law of diminishing marginal productivity has also set in terms of their output, and it has also affected the camaraderie and the confidence and the loyalty of the rank and file of the security agencies, because if anybody expected to be promoted, this person never got promoted because those who were at the head were still there. And it affected the succession structure of the military. So Nigerians were all collectively together in asking that the president should do something about it, and then let these men who have put in their very best to take their desired retirement. And it continued. Mr. President seemed to have huge confidence in these men, even in the face of the realities of the exigencies of the time. And so now that he had done that, Nigerians felt, well, it is good, and a lot of damage control needs to be done in the system to ensure that, especially those who had had their morale low in the military, would have their morale picked up, so that there will be that cooperation, that needed cooperation in the system to fight the insecurity in Nigeria, because it is so much.
All right, let's discuss the appointment of the service chiefs and the outcry. People are saying that the president had bypassed the National Assembly. What is your take on that? Should he have bypassed the National Assembly, or is he in his place to appoint the service chiefs?
The appointment of the service chiefs should follow the process of law. It should follow the process of laid down principles and procedures. Mr. President, yes, it is unarguable that he has the authority, the right, and the legitimacy to appoint the service chiefs. But such authority goes with responsibility of approaching the National Assembly for such appointment to be confirmed. And in times past, from 1999 until 2013, the process had been that of appointment without confirmation, which was against the provisions of the law and against the provisions of the Constitution and the Armed Forces Act, until the Federal High Court took a decision that was very well applauded and never appealed against, that such appointment, in line with the provisions of the Constitution, must be forwarded to National Assembly, especially the Senate, for confirmation. So and in 2015, you will recall, in fact, before 2015, when the former President Jonathan was in power, his appointment in 2014 followed that judicial pronouncement, and National Assembly was approached for confirmation. That was when the likes of Alex Bade, Minima, and the rest of them were appointed. And President Buhari followed the same procedure, the same pattern, when he assumed office in 2015, and forwarded the names of the now arrested service chiefs to the National Assembly. So it beats anybody if such appointment was announced without a letter to the National Assembly, although the handlers of Mr. President claimed that the service chiefs resigned. Some said they were fired, some said they were retired, but whatever be the case, whatever be the truth of the position is that the appointment must be certified and confirmed by the Senate. And if such confirmation is not done, that means the appointment is merely a nomination and not an appointment. And if they continue in office, and that means they are continuing in office illegally and unconstitutionally. Now that we have heard that Mr. President has written to National Assembly, we expect that the needful should be done.
Indeed, Barrister Ezeako, these service chiefs have already resumed at their various positions, and their predecessors have actually handed over to them. So one wonders how much choice the National Assembly has but to confirm them.
Well, that is the damage control that is being done now, because I guess Mr. President and his men, those who advise him and who work for him, for the country, possibly either overlooked or oversight, did not pick sight of the fact that National Assembly must be approached. But that is worrisome, because the man who went to court in 2008 over this matter is serving in this current government, and that is the Senior Advocate Festus Keyamo. So it beats anybody if what really happened that made Mr. President to do this appointment without approaching the National Assembly. But then the argument on the other side is that the gentleman resigned. So, and their resignation coincided with the recess period of the National Assembly. So it is expected that once they come back, then the letter that is already waiting for them will be attended to expeditiously. But then what it now means is that until that appointment is confirmed by the Senate, they are only there in acting capacity, because there cannot be a vacuum in such offices.
All right. Well, I'd like your assessment of the performance of the service chiefs. You'd see that following the dismissal of the former service chiefs, videos of soldiers and naval staff jubilating in their respective barracks became viral. What do you make of those scenarios?
Well, what it simply tells you is that the time for the erstwhile service chiefs to leave office was long overstretched, that they were expected to have left office many, many years back. As a matter of fact, like I earlier said in my opener, that their continued stay in office affected adversely the morale, adversely the loyalty, so to speak, of some people who expected them to have stepped down from power, because they enjoyed an extension of office by Mr. President. And don't forget that one of the cardinal responsibilities, if not the major essence of governance in Section 14 of our Constitution is the security of life and property of the citizenry and that of the entire country. So that is the whole essence of government. And that is one of the cardinal things that this government promised Nigerians that they would do when they came to power in 2015. And Nigerians have not seen such to the extent that they expected, being that the leader of the country today was a former general and a former head of state, and then he's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So some people argue that it is more or less placing the cart before the horse, and that such letter would have gone to National Assembly before these new service chiefs assume their duties. But as we speak, they have already assumed duties. They have taken over from the now retired ones. And the question now will be, what if any of them does not meet the requirement of confirmation? But of course, the president may have to either change that person or insist, as he did in that of Mr. Magu, Ibrahim Magu, who never passed the confirmation of the Senate, but stayed in office for many years. But we want to believe and hope that Mr. President will not toe such line anymore, because that is undermining democracy, democratic principles, and undermining the provisions of the Constitution, which is swore to uphold. So if any of these four gentlemen that we appointed, so that were nominated, if I use the right word, nominated by Mr. President, once they are, if any of them does not meet the test of confirmation, we believe that Mr. President should not waste time to change such a person. So it is better he begins to arrange a plan B for all the offices. But if eventually they all pass through the test, which we expect that they will, judging by the relationship between the presidency and the National Assembly under the current leadership, we expect that they will be confirmed. But at least let the right thing be done for the sake of posterity and for the sake of respect for the rule of law and due process.
All right, Barrister, before we went on a break, you had touched on the performance of the former service chiefs. Well, I'd like your assessment on the new Chief of Army Staff, General Atahiru. Reports of how he was sacked by his predecessor for having failed to meet the 40 days deadline to produce Boko Haram leader Abubakar Shekau has been a hot topic of discussion among many Nigerians. I would love your assessment on that topic and whether or not this is might be a problem.
The general assessment of Nigerians of the immediate past service chiefs is that they have not really performed to the expectation of the people. They have not really performed to the expectation of the promises given by the government. And the other expectation assessment is also that there was more of propaganda and in the assessment of their performance, self-appraisal, a lot of self-appraisal and a lot of self-assessment, in which case they will continue to claim that they are doing well, when in the real fact, what is on ground does not show that they were really doing very well. And there was quite a lot of challenges of communication, because we learned at a time that the then Chief of Defense Staff was not even in talking terms with the Chief of Army Staff. They were only pretending when they came before President Muhammad Buhari. But when they left his presence, they will all go their diverse ways. And there was lack of that needed coordination. It also affected relationship between the Air Force and the Army. So in the reality of such discord, you wouldn't expect that there will be very high performance. So Nigerians really would rate them not very high, and Nigerians expect that the incoming ones should learn very deep lessons and ensure that they close ranks and cooperate to be able to deliver the expectation of the people, which is protection of life and properties, especially in this time that the level of insecurity in Nigeria is so high and so worrisome that it is beginning to cast an aspersion of a question mark on the life, the value of the life of an average Nigerian. So we cannot say that the former service chiefs were very good. We can't say so. Many times they had claimed that they had killed the leader of Boko Haram. Many times the same leader of Boko Haram would release statements that he was still alive. Many times they would tell Nigerians that they have decimated the terrorists. And many times the terrorists will continue to hit and attack targets at will all across the north. So we really want and expect that the lessen the level and the extent of propaganda and self-assessment and self-passing, and then hit the ground running, go to task and tell Nigerians the truth, so that there will be that cooperation between the people and the security agencies, and there will be that cooperation expected among themselves, and not to begin to go their diverse ways, only to deceive the people about their actions.
Well, Barrister, the arm of the government responsible for the confirmation of the service chiefs have said that they will not resume plenary until February the 9th. Now, without a confirmation till then, what is the status of the service chiefs?
They are simply in acting capacity, because what they are now is that they are nominees of Mr. President. The appointment must be confirmed before they can become substantive. So their status today until after the Senate confirmation is that they are in acting capacity. So they should be addressed as such.
Yes. Well, you know, you were speaking on performance, and I want you to go back on that because you're talking about Nigerians. But I would like your own personal assessment of the immediate past Chief of Army Staff, General Buratai, who actually described his attainment as historic. I mean, he's talked about his performance at the military as being the most professional, I guess.
My personal assessment is not different from the assessment of many Nigerians. And that assessment is very straight, that he performed below expectation. And one of the major reasons why we say that he performed below expectation is that he performed in a way and manner that was not very professional. The rate he unleashed the military against the hapless people that claim to be IPOB, that led the government to tag such organizations that are recognized all around the world as asking for self-determination, which they felt is their right. And instead of government bringing them to a table for discussion towards conviction, the government went ahead to tag them terrorists, just to kill the ant with a sledgehammer. And then all those happened under the immediate past service chiefs. And they carried on in that manner, killing and annihilating so many people that they could ordinarily have protected. So that marked a very terrible tar on whatever they claim to have achieved. And the propaganda that attend to their service, whereby they will claim to be working when Nigerians are not seeing the work on ground, and so many reasons have been adduced that have led to their failure. And that is why we are asking the new ones, once they assume office, when they are confirmed, they should not toe the line of the former ones. There should be more engagement of the people instead of all the time attack and attack. And don't forget that the huge amount of money budgeted for defense and the security sector, it does not reflect actually the extent of their success. So it now means that they have to change their approach. Yes, much as you have to attack the people, the carrot and stick approach must be employed so that let the people cooperate with them and then bring more of intelligence than attacks. That will help the system.
Enlightening conversation there. We've been speaking with Barrister Fred Ezeako on the topic of Buhari seeking confirmation for the Senate chiefs. Thank you for joining us.